everyone. Welcome to Infinite Life, Infinite Wisdom, where we talk all things afterlife. I'm your host, Susan Grau, and I welcome you. Wow. I've gotten some really wonderful feedback over the podcasts I'm doing, and I actually was going to stop, and just so you know that. And because of the feedback, I've decided to move forward, and we'll see how it goes. It's wonderful to do, and I'm so glad to be able to get this information out to all of you, but it's also very time consuming. So my new book, Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons, is out on the shelves now, and it talks about a lot of what I'm talking about on this podcast. So I hope you go and get the book or the audio, which I did myself. I hope you make the decision to go and listen to it one way or the other. Get this book in your hands. I think it's going to teach you a lot about the spirit world and the afterlife. Today, I'm going to talk about codependency and letting go. Why is that important to the afterlife? Well, I'm going to tell you why. We're going to take a deep dive. So let's go. The afterlife is wanting us to have freedom, emotional freedom. And we are created with the ability to expand our thinking, our awareness, and to grow to a place where we can be who we are. It's called self-care as we're growing. It's the hardest thing I've done here is not just, the letting go and allowing things to be what they are, but not wanting to fix everybody. And I still have some of that, where I want to be loved. So I have a motive, I want to be loved. And so I'm out there, fixing what isn't mine to fix. There's this little saying, don't do for others what they can and should do for themselves. And boy, I wish I would have listened to that at some point in my journey, because I honestly wanted everybody to love me, and not everybody did. And it was really painful for me. So being an empath, I didn't understand why everyone didn't love me. But in all truth, I wasn't close to everyone, and I didn't think everyone was a good person. So I guess I didn't like everyone, but I think there's a big gap between like and love. So love comes from the spirit bonds, and it comes from the spirits, and it comes from our soul. So loving every individual, not necessarily their behavior and the attitudes and choices, but definitely loving the souls that come in from the spirit world is really important. But liking others, that's a whole nother story, isn't it? I had a lot of struggle with liking myself. So I don't know, how hard it was to like myself was big time. So liking others was, seemed easy to me. But what it really was for me years ago is that I wanted so badly to be enough. I wanted so badly to be. And if you didn't like me, that's what I was going to focus on. I wasn't going to focus on me liking me, and I wasn't going to focus on the people who did like me. I didn't give them nearly as much information, time, and attention than I did the ones who didn't like me, because I wanted so badly to be enough. And I decided that outside of me was where I was going to learn that. How did I learn that? Outside of me was how to get to a place of being enough, the way I was raised. So I grew up in an alcoholic home, and there was a lot of just do the next right thing for them and you'll be good enough. That's what it looked like for all of us, for all my siblings and myself. And so we tried really hard to do everything the right way until we couldn't. And I watched my siblings start to give up and just do what they wanted to do, but I never got there. And I have to say that probably my sister didn't get there for a long, long time either. My brothers just went off and did their thing. But I feel like we felt responsible to take care of everyone. And that responsibility carried a huge burden. What we didn't learn was to be responsible to people, not for them. And there's a big gap there. And we didn't learn to be responsible for ourselves. So I wasn't taking care of me and my feelings. I was taking care of you and yours. That's codependency. And it's like any beautiful flower or weed that overgrows. Codependency can be beautiful. As a hospice worker, it's necessary. If your loved one is in need of your help and you help them, that's beautiful. But given time, it can grow like a weed and smother everything around it. There's a weed in the South that does that. It's absolutely beautiful. and it grows on the trees, and it grows and grows and grows until it smothers the tree and literally takes it down. That's what I call codependency. So for many years of my life, I wasn't able to care for me the way that I needed to. I just wanted you to love me, and I wanted everyone to love me. And I thought if everyone loved me, then I had arrived. And in truth, I learned through my soul and my growth that I needed to love me. So the sacrifices that I made on my journey were immense, trying to get that person, that one person who had refused to accept me as I was and love me the way I was and refused to see the goodness in me. They chose that. They chose not to. And I thought that that meant something was wrong with me. And what I learned was what was wrong with them, that they couldn't see the goodness in me and the kindness in me and the love in me and the way that I wanted them to be happy and I wanted to help them. Why couldn't they see that? What's wrong with them? That they had to see me as the bad guy. And I was just trying to love them and be loved. And yes, I overdid it. Yes, I got codependent. Yes, I did too much for them. Again, don't do for others what they can and should do for themselves. It's the perfect byline for codependency. But I did it because I had good intention. Now, yes, again, there were things that I got from it, acceptance and love. But are those such bad things to want? I don't think so. I just think that it led me into being controlling and maybe making choices I shouldn't have made along the way. But we all learn from our bad choices or our negative choices. I don't even think they're bad. I think choices are there for growth and learning, but I didn't know that then. So when people are narcissistic, they love to point out our codependency. It fills them up. That's why they're so attracted to us. But they also love to use it against us. So I always tell people who are narcissistic victimize you and gaslight you, and then they victimize you for being a victim. What do you do with that, right? And codependents and empaths are the greatest people to do that with. So if you're an empathic energy, I know you've dealt with this in your journey. I've been dealing with it my whole journey and learning the boundaries of how to take care of me. What I learned was boundaries aren't for other people, they're for me. And that means that I have to set them properly. It doesn't mean I say, I'm not going to let you do that to me, because I did. I would say, you're not going to talk to me that way. And then they'd talk to me that way and I wouldn't know what to do. So I did nothing. So, a boundary is about what am I going to do when you have that behavior that causes me trauma, pain, or feeling badly? What am I going to do? Am I going to remove myself? Am I going to go read? Am I going to go to the grocery store? Am I going to remove myself from the situation? Or am I going to stop the pattern inside my head? What is my next right step? That's a true boundary. So I draw this line that says, when they do this, I'm going to. Not when they do this, I'm going to tell them they can't do it. Because people who cross boundaries are boundary crossers, and they're not going to listen to my boundary. But I can listen to my boundary, and I can take the next right action. And learning that was huge for me. So somebody would do something that made me hurt, and I would say, I'm not going to let you talk to me like that. Well, of course I'm going to say that. I didn't know any other tool, but I developed a toolbox that I could pull out a tool that would help me. So I learned to say, when you do that, in my head, I'm going to, and then I do it every single time. And that taught people how to treat me. Because people used to say to me, you teach people how to treat you. And I thought they were nuts. What do you mean you teach people how to treat you? That's ridiculous. I tell them they can't do that. They can't talk to me that way. They can't treat me that way. And they still do. It's about them. No, it was about me. And what I mean by that is I needed to change how I responded. I was reactionary. I reacted to everything. And I still do sometimes. I still make that mistake sometimes, especially when it comes to people I love. They say or do something and I react. And my reactions are most of the time, I would say 99% of the time, not healthy. I now tell myself most of the time, pause. Pause, step back, think about it, try to do it different. And when I do that, it changes how I act on what just happened, not react to what just happened. Reaction is they have the power. Action is I have the empowerment. Big difference in that, right? So, as I go through my journey, I learn more and more how to take care of myself in that codependent state. Again, I don't do it perfect. Nobody does. And I'm never going to pretend that I do. But what I am going to do is remind myself that I'm not meant for perfection. I'm meant to do things over and over again until they cause me enough strife or pain that I want to change it. And then I'm going to fall back into it sometimes. But that's my reminder that I need to strengthen the healthy area. That's all that is. So when I do it wrong, I go, oof, you know what? I need to do that differently. And I need to strengthen this area in me that doesn't allow myself to react to bad behavior. My problem is that I take things in as an empath and they get so deep inside of me that I actually fall. I feel down, depressed, confused. I get in a space of, what am I doing here? Why am I doing this to myself? And then I rise. I love that Maya Angelou, rising from the ashes. I actually have a tattoo on me that says, still I rise. And, I remind myself, it's on my arm so that I can remind myself that I can rise to this occasion, whatever it is, even when I feel like I'm not doing it right. I can shift that at any given moment. So what do I mean by that? If I'm in a situation where I start to react, I can stop at any moment and change that. That's really empowering to know, because I didn't always know that. Once I started reacting, it just like was a spiral. It was like a tornado, and I kept going down, 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 and they kept gaining more speed, the person that was taking control over me, and I was dropping. And now in my life, I start to go down, and then I recognize I'm doing that, and I shift the behavior. And you can do that at any given moment, which is very empowering, by stopping my reaction and pausing to take a healthier action. When I allow people I love to have control of me like that, you would think they'd love me enough to see that I'm in pain, but they're in their own pain. So they're not going to see my pain. They're in theirs. And most likely they're going to become defensive like I did, and they're going to react like I did, and they're going to try to protect their energy like I did. And it becomes like a cycle. It's a circle of unhealthiness. So my job is to pause, step back, make amends if I need to, but I don't have to throw my feelings away. That doesn't mean I don't feel the way I feel. So if someone hurts me and I tell them that hurt me, and I'm not comfortable with that, it's very different than you did this and you did that and you made me feel, right? Very different. I do both. I'm just like you. I'm a human and I do both. But sometimes just taking a pause and saying to ourselves, what do I really feel right now? What is the next right thing for me to do? Not, how am I going to tell this person how they made me feel, right? How do I feel? I need to look at that first and not jump in the hula hoop that's theirs, but stay in my own hula hoop. If I picture myself in my own hula hoop, I'm too busy spinning myself than to step into theirs. I don't need to be in theirs. So basically, keep my eyes on me. When I keep my eyes on me, I do the next healthy thing, the next right thing. So as I was growing in my spiritual energy, I learned the difference between unhealthy and healthy reactions and responses to others. My codependency always pulled me back to the unhealthy. And I had to learn that that was not in my best interest. And that came from being hit and hurt. The pain of that was what taught me to change it. So in codependency, when we are feeling not good enough, it is probably the most powerful part of it. So developing our self-esteem, knowing that we are good people, we mean well, we have good intent, is extremely important in the journey of healing that codependent response and reactionary behavior. So when I started to have self-care and self-love, which is what our bottom line soul purpose is to love the love of self, I learned to do things differently. It was not an easy process. Let me just tell you, it has been a labor of pain to get to a place of looking at myself instead of others and what they're doing to me. Really looking at what I was doing, what I needed to do differently. Did it mean people treated me different? Not necessarily. But did it mean that I loved myself more in any given circumstance? 100%. So, being in a loving position with myself came from loving myself, not from controlling how other people loved me. If they don't want to love me, that's okay. If they don't want to like me, I need to be okay with that. Am I all the time? No, but I need to be. I need to be because I need to like me enough to know that I'm valuable regardless of what another broken, and I say another because we're all broken in some way, another broken person feels. Regardless, I need to love me. My opinion of me needs to matter more than your opinion of me. Whew, that's a big one. That's a big one because when we grow up, we learn if mom and dad are proud of us, then we're worth being proud of. And if mom and dad are happy with us, we're worth being, enough. And we've done it right. And brothers and sisters, we've grown up in a world where we've learned to do for others what we can't do for ourselves, which is give love and give joy and peace and guide ourselves into a better state of thinking with love. So as I've grown older and, time has elapsed, I'm learning that the greatest gift I can give myself is forgiveness, and the greatest gift I can give others is forgiveness. Dolores Cannon says that when we have to redo a relationship and come back and redo the same stuff with people, it's because we haven't been in a place of forgiveness. And if we can just forgive them and forgive ourselves, we are then in a position to not have to repeat that same karmic event over and over. Forgiveness is important. Because I forgive someone doesn't mean that I bring them back into my world. It simply means I forgive their brokenness or what they decided to do to me. I forgive that. That's what that means. And maybe they're not healthy for me to clean that up and have a relationship with them, but I can still be in forgiveness because every human being is broken in some way. We're meant to be, whether it be our thinking, our hearts, our breath of life. There's something about, which I call spirit, there's something about us that is always going to have brokenness in every human being. So it's important to remember that when we are working in a place of trying to be in forgiveness. I don't have to forgive the action. I need to forgive the person for feeling the need to have that poor action or that poor response, just like I want to be forgiven. So if I want to break the karmic cycles, that's the way I'm going to have to do it. I'd rather be in a dharmic cycle than a karmic cycle. And that just simply means I'd rather be for the universal energy instead of my energy and the energy around me. So that's all that really means if we get down to the simplicity of it. So in my codependency throughout my life, I stayed in relationships that were extremely unhealthy for me. I tried to fix everyone around me when they didn't want to be fixed. I tried to control how people felt about me, whether they loved me or didn't love me or how they saw me. And I would trip over myself doing that. I would believe that I was right and they were wrong. I would disapprove, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but disapprove of maybe what they were doing. And instead of just keeping that to myself, I'd verbalize it because, they needed to know from me that they were doing it wrong because I believed I was the ultimate, final say, because that's what codependents feel. And, as time goes on in our journey, we begin to learn that hopefully we're healing from that codependency. That it's not our business what other people think, feel, or do. Even when it's about us, unless they share it with us, it's none of my business. And boy, that's a hard one for me. Still till this day, it's a hard one for me. But I love people and I want to help them and I want to offer them solace and peace and goodness, and I want them to be happy. And so I can get very codependent very, very quickly. Trust me when I say that. So I'm constantly having to reevaluate, is this a codependent feeling? Is this a codependent action? Or am I actually trying to be of service to this person and myself in that process? Again, when I'm codependent, I'm doing for others what they can and should do for themselves, and I'm doing it in an unhealthy way. I want to elicit change in someone else. Therefore, I am manipulating the situation. So I have this really great thing that I remind myself of. If I say it once, I'm having a conversation. If I say it 2 and 3 times, I'm manipulating. I want it to be my way. And if I say it a 4th time, I'm now toxic. They've heard me. They've chosen not to listen to me. And I'm still saying it. So when you tell someone, I don't like the way that you are treating me, and they hear you the first time, believe me when I tell you, they hear you unless they're drunk, intoxicated in some way. They heard you. They're choosing not to make the change. That's a heavy one for me. Why would someone who loves me choose to do something that's harming me? Well, because they're unhealthy. So instead of me going to saying it over and over again, I had to learn, and still am learning, to say it once. And if they make that decision, that's their business, that's on them. And what I'm going to do about it is the only thing that matters for me. Maybe I have to have less of an intensive relationship with them. Maybe I have to be cautious of repeating things or of giving them power. So let me give you an example. Let's say I tell someone something and I say, this is between you and me. And it's very important to me that I keep it between you and me and that you keep it between you and me. And they run and tell the other person. Okay, that's not healthy, right? I confront that and say, we give them one. Hey, you know what? I trusted you with that information and you told that person and they confronted me. And, I really needed to reason things out with someone and I thought you were that person. Please don't do that again. And they say, oh, I'm so sorry. I won't do that again. Instead of saying, I didn't do that when we know they did. I'm so sorry. That was wrong of me, whatever, the response. Then later on down the road, I trust them again with new information and they do it again. What does that teach me? This person has shown me who they are. I need to believe them. And I have learned at that moment that they're not capable of getting information and not repeating it. It doesn't make them bad, but it does teach me not to trust them the 3rd time. So does that mean they're not trustworthy in other areas? No. Does that mean that they're bad people? No. Does that mean that that they are trying to hurt me? No. It just simply means that eyes on me, cannot share with them secrets. That's all. That's pretty simple. But what we do is we either go after them, or someone calls us and says, so-and-so said you said this. And is it true? And we go, no, I didn't do that. That makes me want to laugh because I've done that so many times in my life journey. And now I say, I did. I'm sorry. It was wrong of me. Whew, freedom. I'm free. At that moment, I'm free. Wow. I mean, you guys, if you did something, cop to it and be vulnerable to it. You don't have to be attacked over it. But you can be vulnerable to the truth and you can take responsibility for yourself, take accountability, and you are at that moment empowered and free. And that person has no more power to attack you with it because you've made your amends. You know you did it. Stop trying to get out of it. Just look at yourself. Just take a look. And when you do that, you start to like yourself and you begin to be less codependent. Because the reason that we don't cop to our behaviors, actions, etc., is because we're afraid we won't be loved. We're back to that again. Or we're bad. We're back to that again. But what happens to me when I make the mistake of repeating or causing harm. When I take accountability and responsibility, it builds my self-esteem and I begin to love myself again. Now, the spirit world has taught me to be accountable for myself. I don't always listen. I need to say that to you again. I'm a human having a human experience. But how they make me accountable is it gets confronted. So someone else confronts me, or they show me by someone doing that to me by repeating something when I've repeated something. So I'm always getting the lessons, and they're always showing me how to be accountable, how to love myself enough to take responsibility for my actions and behaviors, not others' actions and behaviors, mine. And when I do that, they've taught me that I can empower myself. Wow. Spirit world loves me. They want me to feel empowered. They want me to feel like I have the ability to make changes. And they're going to put me in a position of bringing it in front of me over and over and over again, even if it's with narcissism. So if I am an empath, I'm probably going to attract a narcissist. I attract all people as an empath. And so that narcissist comes in, I can fill them up. I have to learn inside of me that I can't allow people to take from me that aren't not deserving necessarily, but that aren't healthy enough to use the information I'm giving them or to utilize my love in a healthy way so that I'm safe. That's all. That doesn't mean I have to be cruel. I have to be nasty. I have to gather the troops, I call it, and tell everybody what they did. You might have a group of friends that you really, really trust, that you need to reason things out with. Maybe there's 3 or 4 people that you talk to about everything. Awesome. That's awesome. Reason things out. But make sure that it's not just your opinion, that it's actually behaviors that have happened from someone else that you need to figure out how to handle because you're struggling with it. And make sure those people are your trusted friends. Not gathering everybody you can to turn against a person who is broken and has harmed you so that you feel worthy. Know you're worthy. You know, we're doing what they're doing if we're out there gossiping about them, and we're not doing ourselves a justice. We're doing disjustice to ourselves when we do that. But if you have a group of friends or a couple people that you really trust and you're together with them and they have really wonderful feedback and you know it's not going to go any further, utilize that. That's not being unkind. That's helping you see clarity. And we need help seeing clarity. And the spirit world hopefully will bring people like that into your world and your life because you're going to need that help. Codependency is an animal. It is not healthy. It does not help us. Codependency is not about helping others. It's about growing like a weed till you smother them. And it is for an outcome. And that outcome is the pat on the back that we seem to think we need to be enough. So I'm going to ask you to look at that. And it's not easy because I become codependent very easily and I make big mistakes in my journey. And I'm sure you do too, but I learned from them. So I look at them as lessons instead of mistakes. And I hope you can do that after listening to this podcast. You are enough. You are worthy. You are lovable. And you're not alone. You're not alone in your brokenness. You're not alone in this world. And even when you feel that you are, I want you to know the spirit world will step in and bring you information that will help you heal anything and everything. You just have to be willing to look internally instead of externally for the answers. We're external people. We're looking externally at all times to get answers. It's not where they are. It's inside of us. So look inside of you, work on your codependency, do things differently. If they've caused you pain, I think that means that we're supposed to do it differently and take the time to do that so that you recognize your value and you learn to be enough all on your own. And you learn how to set healthy boundaries so that you can feel the love of who you are and how Spirit created you. That's it for today. Please press the like button and follow me so you don't miss any podcasts. I'm having a really good time talking to all of you and getting the feedback I'm getting. Please give me feedback. I love to hear about it. And remember, they're only a heartbeat away, and take care of you.